Good evening and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Zoning Board of Adjustment of the Township of Union, which is being held pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Law, C-231 Laws of New Jersey, dated 1975. Notice of this meeting was advertised in the local source as well as the Star Ledger, the newspapers of record, and notice has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building adjacent to the municipal clerk's office. Roll call.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Here.
Mr. Wiley. Here. Ms. Alexander.
Here.
Ms. Martins is absent. Mr. Bentavegna.
Here.
Ms. Scott.
Here.
Mr. McNeil.
Here.
And Mr. Champy.
Here. There being a quorum present, this meeting is now declared open. At this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the December 14th meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the meeting minutes of December 14th be approved as written and dispensed with their reading.
McNeil,
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Monguso, are there any communications?
Yes, we have communications, calendar number 3402, regarding applicant Theodore Jenkins from Javerbaum Wargath, that council will speak to.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll address it when the case is called. You might as well formally call it. I don't know if any public was here on that.
Okay, then our first order of business this evening is calendar number 3402, Theodore Jenkins. Location is 1495 Brown Avenue, Block 4912, Lot 2, two-family home in a one-family zone.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I received a copy of the communication referenced by our secretary from Javerbaum Wargath. It was from Stephen Hale, who was the attorney for the applicant, Theodore Jenkins, for that property in that calendar. He has indicated that he followed up the discussions that we had regarding scheduling, and his letter confirms that the applicant is withdrawing without prejudice. He's asking that the board accept the withdrawal without prejudice the application. Reverend Jenkins is exploring his options with respect to the property, and they will advise if there will be an amended submission in the future. What that means legally, if the board just should move and second and accept that it's going to be withdrawn without prejudice from our calendar. If they're going to return, they'd have to refile and renotice. So it's just a formality to accept the withdrawal without prejudice. Unless somebody has any questions or comments of me, I think we could tee it up for that direction.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion. I move the calendar number 3402 be removed from our agenda without prejudice.
A second.
Roll call.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Bentavegna.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
And Mr. Champy.
Yes.
For the public's benefit, if anyone was here this evening or is listening on this case, it is withdrawn. The only way it will return to this board is if it gets refiled and renoticed. So it is no longer on our agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, our next order of business is calendar number 3408, The Bud Shop LLC, located at 1565 Route 22 West, Block 1806, Lot 3.03. We adjourned this case last week on the 14th. It is to operate a Class 5 cannabis retail establishment. Counsel?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Counsel over here.
Oh,
You counsel to the right, witness to the left.
good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members, council. My name is Daniel Lagana. I'm an attorney representing the applicant, The Bud Shop, from the law firm of Cleary, Giacobbe, Alfieri, and Jacobs, 169 Ramapo Valley Road, Oakland, New Jersey. We are here this evening seeking an approval to renovate an existing interior retail space that was previously occupied by Just Cribs on Route 22. We are looking to install a Class 5 cannabis dispensary The site is located in the newly created commercial corridor zone where cannabis dispensaries are permitted to operate as a conditional use. Here before the zoning board, because the project violates one of the conditions stated in the ordinance, section 170-16-16F, where a cannabis dispensary cannot be located within 1,500 feet of a residential use or zone. There are several bulk variances as well. The existing residential uses will provide testimony of where the residential zone is with regard to this property in relation to the site. In addition, this board is familiar with the site. In 2018. This board conducted a review of an expansion of the existing retail building to include some residential properties and a storage unit, and granted several bulk variances, and will provide testimony with regard to those bulk variances, how a lot of those bulk variances are not being exacerbated as part of this project. Those will have to do a lot with the exterior of the building, and you'll hear testimony that we are not in any way, other than the sign, we are not looking to change any of the exterior of the building. We do need a parking variance, which will provide testimony under the existing ordinance. It was slightly changed from the prior ordinance, and will provide you testimony. But we are a retail establishment, and we are replacing a retail establishment, so for our portion of the building, the calculation remains the same. Finally, there are several variances related to the proposed signage. We'll provide testimony that the sign is remaining in its existing location. We are simply adding a sign to the top of it. That created a height variance with regard to the existing pole-mounted sign, but we're not changing the sign in any other way, including its location, which is an existing non-conformity. With that, Mr. Chairman, I have two witnesses this evening. I have our engineer, Mr. Patrick McClellan, and an operations individual, Mr. Frank Catania, who will be providing testimony. If there are no questions from the board, I would call Mr. McClellan to be sworn in.
Just for the record, before I do that, I did mark Council A1, your application with the supporting materials as you submitted it. A2 was the tenant occupancy plan prepared by MCB Engineering dated August 15th of 2022, which was one sheet. And A3 was the bud shop plan prepared by Petrick, the architect, dated August 28, 2022, also consisting of one sheet. So A1, 2, and 3 for the record.
Great. Council, I did, for the board's benefit, if you would like, I know it's often difficult with the larger plans, I did provide the same exact plans in 11 by 17 form. If you want to mark those
As long as it's the same as, which one, A2 or A3?
both A2 and A3 I've provided.
As long as there's no changes, it's fine. They could use it for information.
There are no changes, just the size of them for the board. I've come to learn that I appreciate being able to maneuver a little bit better.
Well, this new technology is great, though. We're getting spoiled because they have it on their computers, so.
Sometimes people like the physical copy. So
Yeah.
this is the engineering plan. I know there are the
If there's a new matter, a new document to note, we'll pick up with A4 and go from there.
that'd be great. Actually, if we could, I did reference a prior resolution. Was that part of
It's
the
part of your application
package?
materials,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Counsel.
And for the board's record, it's a calendar number, it was in the packet, 3291. This board heard it. I think a lot of our members were part of that board. And to the extent anything is not changing here tonight, that resolution remains in full force and effect. So it's just a matter of what we're amending tonight to deal with this particular application. Can I ask the witness if he can raise his right hand? Swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
For the record, state and spell your name with your business affiliation.
Certainly. My name is Patrick McClellan, MCCLELLAN. My firm is MCB Engineering Associates, located in Totowa, New Jersey, and I'm a half owner and a civil engineer from that firm.
Thank you.
Mr. McClellan, Pat, if you could please give the board the benefit of your educational experience and your professional history.
Absolutely. I'm a 1989 graduate from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. I have successfully passed my professional engineer's exam in 1994 in the state of New Jersey, and I've been licensed since, and my license is current at this moment. I became the half owner of MCB Engineering Associates in 2002 and have remained in that position since then. I've been before approximately 100 land use boards in the northern and central part of the state.
The board will accept his credentials.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, Pat, please give the board the benefit of the site, its location, its surrounding neighborhood, and give the board, I think the board is familiar with where the property is, but let's give the board the benefit of where we are in the township.
Okay. And if I may, because I did hear counsel mention that the exhibit from the plan from our firm was dated August, but the most recent plan has got a revision date of November 28, 2022, and that was delivered to the township at the end of November.
Just noted for the record, I don't know if that's the one that Colliers reviewed. I know they noted the August date, so why don't we mark it A4 with the revision? They did? Okay, it's just that I'm being told Colliers had the updated version, so that's fine. I'll change my reference to show the revised date as you mentioned it. Thank you.
Thank you. And as our attorney has mentioned, this is a very straightforward application from an engineering perspective. This is known as 1603 Route 22 West. It's block 1806, lot 3.03. Size of the lot is just a bit under 51,000 square feet, and it has its frontage on Route 22. It's a bit of an odd-shaped lot. The bulk of it is over in this section, but then there's sort of a flagstaff that goes off into the back. This property is fully developed and has been before this board not too many years ago for some modifications. We're here tonight to simply swap out the tenant from what is currently the Just Cribs retail store to the Bud Shop. There is no proposal to make changes to the site with exception of the small modifications to the sign. Just to clarify that, we have a photo exhibit of that sign on our plan, and basically what we're doing is outlining the dimensions of that plan. It stands about 8 feet from the ground to the bottom of the sign. The existing sign itself is approximately 66 square feet, and then there's a proposal to add a 4 by 6 foot wide additional piece to the top that will advertise the Bud Shop. So we're going from 66 square feet to 90 square feet.
Pat, before we get to the sign, I just want to orient the board with regard to where the residential zone is that triggered the D3 variance.
Certainly. I just have some dimensions jotted down here too. The property in question is located on Route 22. This white area is the Garden State Parkway, and this is the ramp to it. What's in red is in the CC zone, which is what the zone that we're in. What we're interested in is knowing how far we are from the yellow, which are the residential zones. Across the Garden State Parkway, we're about 820 feet from the residential zone over here. We're at our closest point, which is from the front of our site to this lot here, and forgive me, I did forget my glasses, so I can't quite, Highland Avenue. That distance to the property line is about 171 feet, but then our building is another 50 feet back from there. So if we're measuring from building to residential zone, it's about 220 feet. And then as we go in the sort of the southwest direction, we range between 640 feet and about 750 feet.
So the residential zone to the north is buffered by the Garden State Parkway.
Buffered by the parkway.
And to the south is across Route 22.
Across Route 22 and kind of snuck in behind some other CC zone.
Right, so you can see on the map that there's some red along Route 22.
Yes.
And that's a buffer between the residential zone and Route 22, correct?
Yes, it is.
Are any of those residential properties fronting on Route 22?
Not in the vicinity of, you have to go down a little further, but that's further away from our property.
Okay. We also have some residences on the site, but that was part of a D1 use variance that was granted as part of this board's prior approval, correct?
Correct.
Are we making any changes to stormwater management?
We are not.
Are we making any changes to lighting?
We are not.
Are we making any changes to the exterior of the building, besides the signage?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And you spoke briefly about the signage. Let's go back to the signage, if you will. So the existing sign is an existing pylon sign. Could you point on site where the sign is located?
Yes, I can. It's right at the most east corner of the property. And again, it exists in close proximity to Route 22. We are not proposing to relocate the sign. It's going to stay in that location.
And Pat, that sign triggers a variance because of its existing location, correct?
Its existing location is an existing nonconformity.
And that's, can you just state for the record what that variance is? I believe it was called out in the Collier's report.
Yes. There's a couple of variances called out, if I may just refer to the Collier letter.
Just note for the record, too, the Collier's references to the November 21st, 2022 Collier's letter from the Township Engineer.
Thank
Just
you.
generally, counsel, if you can cover with the witness, we probably could streamline. Is there anything in the report that you necessarily will not be able to comply with as the applicant, do you know, from his engineering perspective?
No, Counselor, I think we can comply with the technical comments that were noted in subsection 3.
Thank you.
So the variance that you touched on before, the height of the structure, it's, what is the current height of the structure, of the signage?
Current height is 19 feet,
Okay. And what is the requirement for the zone?
10 feet.
Okay, so it's an existing non-conforming, correct?
Yes.
We're simply adding a sign to the top of that?
Yes.
Okay, and that's why we're exacerbating an existing variance. Also, because we're adding a sign, we are going over the square footage, correct?
Well, it's already slightly over the square footage. It's 60 square feet allowed, 60 square feet allowed, 66 square feet is existing, and we're going to proposing 90 square feet.
Okay, and again, that's because we're adding the sign to the top.
Yes.
I have a question about the sign, Mr. Chairman. Did the crib place have a sign?
I don't know the answer to that question, sir.
We did not observe a sign from this.
Has there been any, who's responsible for the sign? I suppose the landlord? Has anyone approached the landlord about reducing, I see Lumber Liquidators has most of the sign.
Correct.
Has anybody approached them knowing that you have a variance problem, that maybe they could reduce part of the Lumber Liquidator sign to put yours instead of adding to an existing worse, making it worse?
I'd have to defer. We have not had such a conversation.
Perhaps that'd be appropriate. I mean, why are we taking, I know it's an existing non-conforming, Counselor, but why are we making it worse?
Your comments are well taken. We can go back certainly to the landlord if the board decides that variance, and we do have an operations person who can maybe speak to that, but your comments are well taken, sir.
Okay, thank you. Maybe the whole sign needs to be reconfigured. How many other, is it just Lumber Liquidators that's on there, or no one else? I see a blank spot at the bottom.
Yeah, and there's a restaurant as well.
Okay, thank you.
Are the steakhouse, is that on the sign too? Because there's 3 of you on the property, right?
Correct, and it looks like that the sign only has two.
Yeah, it looks like it's exclusive to
Maybe
Lumber
the whole sign
Liquidators
needs to
at the
be
moment.
redeveloped and make it nicer and fit everybody in there and, do it the right way, you know what I'm saying?
We can certainly bring this to the landlord's attention. Again, it is a existing non-conformity.
I understand.
I think it'd be appropriate, the board can consider the variance as it's been proposed by the applicant, with an understanding that perhaps they could work cooperatively with the landlord, and obviously, if it reduces from the size that would be recommended, or at least accepted, that's something they could look to do.
That's fine, thank you. That'd be great.
Thank you, Counsel. Okay. I believe the last thing was the parking was called out. Can you go over some of the parking, existing parking, and what was previously approved by this board versus what we're asking for now?
Okay, yes, I can. And again, just preceding this by emphasizing that the change of tenants does not exacerbate the parking requirements. It's more so that we've had a change of in the ordinance. So the previous application from 2018, I believe it was, had a proposal for 55 parking stalls, and 69 were I'm sorry, they proposed 69 parking stalls. And what we are doing now in the CC zone is we've reevaluated the values for each of those uses, and we've itemized them in our table, and we came up with 72.4 or 73 parking spaces. We've read the report from Colliers. They've calculated it a little differently, and I think we understand the differences. One is that our plan does omit one of the 2-bedroom units, so our count would go from 74 to 76 required. And then there's a discrepancy in the way that the parking is calculated for the restaurant. The Colliers letter considers the entire restaurant to be customer or net area. We estimated that a third of the restaurant would be net area, so that's why our number is down at 74, and Collier's number was at 105. But respectfully, we think that number is high because, again, that number is not intended to include kitchens and common spaces. It's intended to count where the customers sit so that it can represent how many parking spaces you need based on the usage of the place.
And that's per the ordinance, correct?
That's per the
You're
ordinance,
not counting
yeah.
kitchens, bathrooms, common areas, you're only counting where the restaurant
Correct.
patrons are seated, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, that is all I have in terms of direct testimony.
At this time, are there any board members that would like to question the testimony Mr. McClellan has given?
Yeah, I would have a question. I know that thanks. Anthony. I know that the cannabis dispensaries are relatively new, so there's probably no data as to activity for that type of business. How much activity does it generate as compared to the crib outlet, for instance, which would relate back to parking? So do you have any idea of what we might expect as far as comparison to a general retail store?
If I may
Crib outlet?
ask you to defer that question to our operations person.
Okay.
Who will be better able to give you the kind of peak hour, anticipated peak hours.
Great.
But under the ordinance, just to clarify, cannabis is designated as retail, and it's one space for every 200 square feet, and that's what we're abiding by, and the crib outlet was actually measured in the same exact fashion.
Okay.
So it's retail to retail, it didn't differentiate cannabis specifically.
Gotcha, thanks very
I
much.
think the questions are fair by Mr. DiGiovanni, but what I'll just raise for the board to consider, as council just summarized, it is a permitted use by and large, except for the one condition not being satisfied. It's going into existing retail space, so it's a little different in terms of, we can't really necessarily reevaluate the D1 variance that we already granted. That's why it's part of the record. And I think the question about the use and the operationals will answer that. The only thing I would just put an asterisk as well, similar to with the signage, of whether you maybe can conform or to what exists, the pre-existing non-conforming. Let's do a similar notation for the follow-up with the parking, just to make sure Colliers is on board with your analysis or your expert's analysis on the restaurant use. I tend to agree with you in terms of the way it's analyzed, but that's the point, that it's a retail use going in as a permitted use for all intents and purposes is something to factor in. So the restaurant use is there, it exists, it's part of the approval that we've already granted.
I have no
But I
problem
will
with that.
think it's important to make sure Colliers is on the same page with that in terms of the numbers.
I agree with that approach, counsel, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penfield.
Ms. Alexander?
Could you just explain to me again, you had said 72 parking spaces, then you said 74, 76, you said 69. How many
I
parking
know,
spaces?
there was a lot of numbers, I apologize. So we calculated the parking based on our analysis, and as a result of our assessment of the uses out there, we came up with a requirement of 73 spaces, 72 and change. Let me just find it so I can be precise. Here we go. And again, I forgot the glasses, and these papers are getting harder and harder to read. So that our analysis had an error in it. We counted 5 existing residential units on the property. There are 6. The one that we missed was a 2-bedroom unit, and a 2-bedroom unit by the parking standards would require 2 spaces. So our estimate of 73 goes to 75 required. Okay, because we calculated 72.4, so we rounded up to 73. And so and with that error, now we're at 75. That's our proposal based on the restaurant being 33% tables and 66% infrastructure, kitchens, bathrooms, waiting areas, things like that. We were pointing out, though, that the Collier letter analyzed the parking for the restaurant, assuming 100% of the space for usable area, which respectfully, we think that's not quite the right interpretation, but we're pleased to, come to terms with that. So for the record, I was pointing out that in the Collier letter, they had calculated that 105 parking spaces were needed. They also properly identified the 6 residential units where we had 5. So we had an error, and then we have a slight disagreement on how to calculate the restaurant, but.
Okay, thank you.
So the 30 space difference is tied into the restaurant calculation exclusively, correct?
Yes.
So that's,
Yes,
so
it
that, once again, to my point, the restaurant is already there and part of the approval. So you have factored that into your deliberations. I think that that's something we can't necessarily hold against the retail applicant who's coming in with a conditionally permitted use.
And
It
just for the
doesn't
record,
necessarily tie into the residential feature of why they're here.
and just for the record, counsel, just to clarify the Commissioner's statement, the 69 parking spaces, was previously required under the old ordinance, and the variance was granted for 51 parking spaces. So the new ordinance causes this to slightly uptick a little bit under our analysis, but their variance for the parking, that's where the 69 parking spaces came from, was the previously adopted ordinance or the prior ordinance requirements, which slightly increased, but the variance for 51 spaces on site was previously granted in the prior
Okay,
approval.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other board members that would like to question?
I
Mr.
do
McClellan?
have a question, going back to the sign, just based on the application, we're adding additional 24 square foot of area. The existing structure has been analyzed that it will be able to accommodate the additional loading on that foundation for?
It would, the design has not been performed yet, but that would be part of the design of, the actual design of the sign. We wanted to first secure the approval from the board before, doing the actual design of the sign.
So there's a potential that this sign as it exists right now will be demolished and a new sign built?
We don't believe so, but there's an outside chance.
To Mr. DiGiovanni's point, we will speak with the landlord to determine how we can best accommodate the board's concerns with that sign, understanding it's an existing nonconformity. If we can, we will do what we can to, but again, typically it's not our sign, it's the landlord's sign. So we're just trying to add our business's information to that sign, and that's where we are.
I mean, but this is the application.
Understood.
What's here? And 24 square foot is a nice size area, and a lot of load can be added to this foundation.
Your
So-
comment is absolutely valid and has to be taken into account. No question.
And one other question, about the use of the facility. Will there be, similar to a restaurant, would it be similar to a restaurant facility where people sit in and purchase and partake in the facilities, or is it just a
If I-
grab and go?
If I could just defer that to our operations.
Okay.
We'll give you
All
the estimated time that we have public at the site and so on and so forth, so.
But the answer legally, I believe, is no. It's not going to be similar to a restaurant use. It's a distribution
Correct.
only.
That it got
Fair
seating.
question, though. Fair question.
And I think and it's a good question, because there's a point to that, we'll call it a lobby holding area, and the operations person will get into that.
Okay.
Are there any other board members that would like to question the testimony Mr. McClellan has given? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Mr. McClellan has given? Hearing none. Next witness, Counselor.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to call Mr. Frank Catania, our operations individual. Mr. Catania will also be providing some of the, with the architectural, there's some factual data that he'll be providing. He's not going to be sworn in as an expert. We're going to swear him in as a fact witness, Mr. Chairman, with regard to operations. And he's also going to be providing some of the factual testimony with regard to the architectural and how the layout is oriented.
Can I ask the witness to swear or affirm that the testimony you provide this evening is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I do.
If for the record, just state and spell your name.
Sure. My name is Frank, F-R-A-N-K, last name Catania, C-A-T-A-N-I-A.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Frank, you have been part of this operation from the beginning, correct?
That's correct.
And you've
I'm
not-
the lead consultant for the applicant. I've worked with them from the very beginning with this, together with any talks with Union with respect to the site. I've handled everything on their behalf.
And not only with this application, but you've also done similar applications in other municipalities, correct?
That's correct.
So
We've
you-
done close to a dozen throughout the state, all different. There's a retail Class 5 license. I've done Class 1, 2, 3, you name it, so.
Okay. So could you give the board the benefit of what is proposed on this specific site here?
Absolutely. All right. We have a site of a rectangular site here, which is presently, as you heard before, just cribs. We're not looking to change anything with respect to the outer boundaries of the facility. It's approximately 1,800 square feet overall. Take into account, take out the bathrooms, take out the hallways, we're down to somewhere around 1,580 square feet, of which we will be utilizing. It'll be a retail cannabis use, all right, which basically people come in, they purchase. What we do offer is, not only do you offer just bud, all right, which people smoke, we handle gummies, we handle vapes, we handle topicals. There's so many therapeutic sides to the entire cannabis industry people don't know about, all right? And all of our people who we have working for us, which at any time, the minimum we would have on this site would be 5 employees. The maximum on this site would be 10 employees, all right? They're all educated to the point where they can educate every consumer that comes in. Someone that's coming in not just to smoke cannabis, to either feel elevated because of a sativa or indica, which makes you calm and relaxed and sleep. We have other products which again are for pain. There's so many different things with respect to cannabis, and that's what we will be offering here. All right. It is a new use in the state, so you're right. It is somewhat unique. We don't have exact numbers because of the facilities, although you guys do have a medicinal place right down on the other side, Route 22 West, which used to be Garden State. All right? They've been here operating, and their facility is a little bit bigger than ours, all right? But they also do medicinal as well as recreational.
Excuse me,
yeah.
I hate to interrupt you, I'm very sorry. But
I'm talking too fast?
Maybe I missed it, but I don't know how you related to this. I don't know who you are, who
no
you
problem.
work for.
That's what I just said. I'm the lead consultant for this applicant. All right?
Okay, so you work for the applicant?
Yes, I work for the applicant, yes, all right? And I'm authorized to speak on their behalf.
And his testimony is relevant for purposes of operations, sir.
Okay, I understood, but I didn't know, you didn't ever say who he was from or what he was working for?
No problem, I apologize, All right.
So, Frank, looking at the architecturals, you can see at that main entrance, you have a staging lobby area of about 405 square feet. Can you explain to the board what that area is?
What we do is, if you take a look across the top of this plan, that would be Route 22. The parking lot would then be at the top of the plan. This would be the entrance to our facility. It's a double door. It's glass front, exactly what is there now. And you come in, and we have what's called a staging area. People come in, you have to check your ID as soon as you walk in to make sure that you are of age. Then we have an area here where you are in, of which we have iPads. We have iPads as well as pictures of products, of which you go through, and if you know what you want, you can order it right on the iPad. If you don't know what you want, we then take you from this room into, this is the retail area, which you see here. This coming down here is where our cash registers are. This will be open to the public. The public will come through here, and what we do is we limit, based upon the size, how many people are allowed in this particular area at any one time. That's why we have the lobby area where people have to wait. And once we hit our maximum here, nobody else can come in until someone leaves from here. When they get into this space, this is where the product is. According to the law in New Jersey, you're not allowed to handle the product. the closest that you can get to any product, it is a glass jar with a cap on it, and it's perforated. So people are able to smell it, all right? They can't touch it. And that's what will be in this area. Also, there in this area will be different gummies. All of our products will be in this area, behind closed cases, all right? We're not allowed to have them be able to touch or hold any of the product until it's theirs. All right? Everything is regulated. This entire industry is regulated by the CRC, so far beyond how the ABC regulates liquor. So what they do is they come in, they have even ordered it. If in fact they ordered it in the lobby area, they come in here, they come to a cash register, they give their order number, they receive their product, their license is checked again before they get their product. They pay, they get their product, they then exit out of a different door. So we have the rotation coming in through this way and out this way, all right? Then, once they leave, another person then is allowed in. The bottom of this area is more of a private area. It's our break area, it's our bathroom area, and we're also required by the state to have a secured storage area, all right, which is basically a vault. Every night, at the end of the night, everything has to be put inside that vault. You're not allowed to have any product left outside anywhere in this facility. And most importantly, all right, with respect to this, put aside the fact of you have video cameras everywhere in here that have to have fingerprint recognition as well as facial recognition. In addition to that, every hour that we are open, we have armed security on these facilities. And what we do at each of these facilities is we speak to the local police department and we ask them, do their off-duty officers want to be our basically security? If not, we have a third party that we go to. All right, so we try to work with the town with respect to that as well. As with any facility that we have, and whether it's in Union, whether it's in any other town, what we also do is, you're obviously entitled to a tax. You're entitled to a 2% tax that the town could charge that, well, I'll put it this way, you're entitled up to a 2% tax. We've never had a town that has not charged the full amount, obviously, all right? But we also do what's called a 1% gross, we do it a community fund. We take 1% of our gross. We put it into a fund. At the end of the year, we meet with the township, and what we do is, it's entirely up to you. In conjunction with us, that 1% is for you to do with your town what you want to do. What other towns have done, they've done it at a PAL, they've done uniforms, senior citizens, helped that, different worship houses, you name it, all right? So in addition to the regular taxes, we put a community fund because, and this is what's part of my testimony I'd like to get into, the entire cannabis industry is new, and especially in New Jersey, it's been around, and people have a stigma as to what the business is. As soon as you hear it, you think people are, first of all, are smoking. They're smoking weed. Inside is a drug house. It's so far from that. First and foremost, there was a question earlier about smoking. You're not allowed to, if anyone smokes here, we're in big trouble. Even on the site, you're not allowed to smoke. All right? So there'll be no smoking permitted in the building. There'll be no smoking permitted on the site whatsoever. That's the first thing with respect. You're not allowed. That's why we got security. Believe it or not, we get in trouble for that. All right? And that's why our security does handle that as well. That's why we have cameras not only inside the building, we have cameras on the outside of the building. All right? Because, again, that's a whole nother avenue with respect to law enforcement and being under the influence, all right, with respect to cannabis, all right, as opposed to alcohol. But no, all we can do on our part and our requirement is you can't smoke it in our building, you can't smoke it on our site, all right? With that? No, you're not supposed to, let's put it that way, all right? I can't stop you from slipping it in your mouth, all right? But at least the one good thing about that, the candy takes at least 30 minutes to hit you, all right? So hopefully you're still not on our site in 30 minutes.
So Frank, just to go back to that question, the sitting area in the front is really for the customers who want to peruse the product?
Yes.
And there's no consumption on site?
There's no consumption whatsoever on that front area. What happens is once you come to the facility enough times, you know, all right, what product you like. You can go in and go online. They go online, they order. By the time they come to the facility, they come right to the reception desk, they give their order number, they walk inside, they pick up their package, they're out. And there was a question before as to the number of people that come in, all right? Guys, obviously, the more people we like, the better business we do. When we start off, all right, the average that it usually takes is 12 minutes for one customer. Come in, do what they got to do, and out, all right? By the third month, we're able to get that number down to 7 minutes, all right? And throughout any given day, you're probably going to, listen, the weekends are a little busier than the weekdays, but you're looking at anywhere from a low of 100 to the high of probably somewhere around 200, all right, customers coming through that facility in a day, all right? The facility itself, the inside, all right, the closest thing which I can compare it to is an Apple store. You walk inside, we do one of two things. We haven't decided yet for this particular store. It is either all white granite, or gray veins through it with underlying blue neon lights. So it looks very similar to an Apple store. Very, very clean, because the worst thing that could ever happen to us in a retail is for any of your product to get a mold or a mildew, all right? Once it has mold or mildew, it's bad. So we try to keep it as clean, as sanitary as possible when you come in. So it's that look of a Apple store, very granite, very clean, maybe it's a doctor's office even looking like, or we have a rustic look. We have the old beams with the old rustic look, with the cabinets being the old wood. Honestly, we haven't decided exactly what theme we're going to do here yet. We're still doing our studies, but it's going to be one or the other. What I can assure you, it is not going to be a drug den. It is far, far from a drug den, all right? So, in a nutshell, that's pretty much everything. I'm sure you have some questions. Please go right ahead and shoot.
Are there any board members that would like to question Mr. Catania?
Yes.
Ms. Alexander?
Okay, so my question is, you come in the front door, you come in the front, and you sit in these little waiting seats.
In the lobby area,
You-
yes,
You've checked my license.
yes.
And I'm using your computer to go through looking for the products.
Yes.
Right? And right there, how many people could be there in that first part?
We like to limit it to somewhere between 12 and 15 people.
Could be in that first area?
Yes, exactly.
And that's where the security officer is?
No, there's going to be more than one security officer in
Oh,
this
I'm
place.
just concerned.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a security officer, and then those 15 people will now come down to these 12 salespeople? Is it 12 or 8, 12? The 12?
You have, we can only hope it's 12. It's not going to,
So-
it's going to be somewhere around 8 is what it's going
So
to
it'll
be.
always be monitored, only 12 people will come in? It won't be any more than 12 in the second part?
Whatever we have available in
Uh-huh.
cash registers is what we will allow in that particular
Whatever.
area any one time. So what happens is, if in fact, if it's, let's say 10, all right, once a person leaves, we'll take in another one,
Okay.
all right?
And
Now-
then you go out the opposite way.
The opposite door.
Does that door go through the waiting room?
That door goes through the lobby room, yes. All right, there's only one entrance and one exit to the facility, all right, coming through the same door, but once you go beyond that lobby area, it's one door for entrance on your right, it's one door for exit on your left, coming from the product area back into the lobby area.
And the security be all around? Nobody can rush and go behind this counter where I'm
Oh,
waiting?
my God,
and
absolutely
take-
not.
That's,
No, absolutely not.
so,
No, that's exactly what security is for.
and my suggestion is make it look like an Apple store, nice and bright. And-
All right, then, we'll absolutely take that into account.
Thank you. That's
You
all.
got it.
Now, that's a great question. From the lobby area to the retail area, the door, is that a security door?
Yes, it's a secure door. They are, just to let you know, everything is done by magnet.
Oh,
Everything's
okay.
done by magnet. You can't get through those doors without a card, all right?
Okay.
You have to have a security card. And what happens is the person at the reception desk is the person who would let that person in,
Okay,
all right? The same thing when you come over here to leave, all right? You can't leave here unless it's,
somebody else.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You think you had gold in there?
Unfortunately, some people think it is. Some people think it's better than gold.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
Are there any other board members?
Hours of operation.
Hours of operation is 7 days a week. On the weekdays, we're going to be open from 10 to 10. On the Saturday, we're looking from 10 to 8, and on Sunday, 10 to 6.
Is that typical of the other
Other
locations?
dispensaries? Yes. Some of them are open later. Security purposes, that would rather not be open that late.
You must have done some sort of a marketing analysis for the area, because So what do you expect as far as activity for this location?
Like I said, on a low time, we expect 100 patrons through the door in a day. On a high time, between the weekends, especially at the beginning, you're probably talking 200.
Has any traffic analysis been done for this location?
The site, believe it or not, based upon the numbers, how quickly we can get them in and out, the site itself with the parking on the site, our own internal analysis, as well as we do deal with some other people who we work with, professionals, all right, we feel we have more than enough parking area here to handle what's coming in and coming out, because it's not continuous. As much as I wish it was continuous throughout the day, all right, it's not continuous. It's not.
In terms of people showing up, it is throughout the day?
It's throughout the day. Our busy times, listen, our busy times are not rush hour times. You'd be a little bit surprised, all right? Our busy times are not your 4 to 6, all right? Our busy times are later. Our busy times are usually, honestly, sometimes like 7 to 9, all right? You also in the morning, you get some people on their way to work, all right? Who will go to work later. You get lunchtime, all right? Your lunchtime, it picks up a little bit as well, so.
And you also testified that as the site is open and you have people who are frequenting the location, that time by which they are in the location or in the facility is going to get quicker because of the online ordering and just them being familiar with the site, correct?
The numbers which we have had based upon other places is, in fact, our goal is to get them down to 7 minutes per customer.
How will you make people aware of the location so they can go online and stuff like that?
What we do is there's other you have companies out there or not, believe it or not, who what they do is people are aware, they handle their own marketing, and one of them is called Where's Weed, okay? So if you live anywhere in the Union, let's say Hillside area, all right, they type in from one of these facilities to find out, and they'll see that that's where we're at, all right? We also are going to handle, we're part of a marketing hub. Not initially, but once you're there for a little while, you're known for your brand, right? Your branding. You're known for your strains, all right, and the taste. Because everything, I'm embarrassed to say, honestly, I don't smoke, all right? I'll take my gummies, all right, but I don't smoke, all right? So I don't know, but I have one of my experts with me who stands by my side all the time. And what happens is people become they become very loyal to their strains. They like the taste, they like the strength, and once they know what that is, they're able to order it, or they'll come to our facility because other facilities don't have that, all right? And what we do is, we have to buy, all of our product has to come from New Jersey. We're not allowed to cross state lines with it. So we have relationships with other growers, all right? We have relationships with other, large growers as well as boutique, all right? Boutique, which give you high quality product as opposed to mass product. And, you get known. You want to form a brand is what you want to do, all right? And people know you for your brand.
Chairman,
Thank
I do have a question.
Mr. McNeil?
This is a unregulated industry.
Far from it, very, very regulated.
Well, I'm talking about in terms of use, the end user.
The-
Is there a
can-
permit required or a card required to enter?
No, it's not.
Your facility?
It's strictly by age. What they do is they limit you on what you're allowed to buy, all right, per day. I'm going to be totally honest with you. If anybody smokes what they allow you to smoke per day, all right, you're not doing it. You're not doing anything else in your life. All right, I'll be honest with you. I was surprised they allow it so high. All right, but other than that amount which they allow you, as to use-wise, no. As long as you meet the age requirement, it's just like liquor.
And that age is 21, correct?
That age is 21, correct?
But is there a database, like when you log someone in as purchasing, is there a grand database that their name goes in and this is what they purchased so that they can't go to the next bud shop?
Can I tell you something? Medicinally, yes. All right? We're not a medicinal place, and nor are many of the places going to be. Recreational, they do not allow you, beyond the time that person leaves the place, to maintain any of their personal information whatsoever. So, Mark, all of the dealers say exactly the same thing you say. How would you know whether they're going to go to another facility? The state doesn't have an answer to it for us.
Same thing with a liquor, go from one liquor store to another. Nobody.
And Mr. Catania's right, the medical, it's by prescription.
Yes.
So your doctor is saying you can have X amount, and you can't get more than
Yeah.
that.
And-
The
and-
recreation, you can walk in and
And that also goes in a computer. Medicinally, it goes in a computer. Recreational, pursuant to the CRC, we are not allowed to maintain any of your personal information whatsoever beyond that particular day when you come in to show your ID that you are of age. All right? So, could they come in the next day? They expect us to recognize you if you came in within the 24 hours.
Mr. DiGiovanni makes a good point, and I think for the board's benefit, I did a little research because this is new even to me. This is our first case here. I've represented other boards. I've never had a cannabis case. Could be akin to buying liquor. I mean, it's even regulated more than that.
Yes, it is.
Liquor regulation on steroids is what it is. I mean, but if somebody came in impaired, for example, you reserve the right not to serve them.
Oh, 100%.
Like anyone comes in drunk and do a liquor.
It's 100%.
That's the way, the best analogy I did in doing my own research to try to benefit this board that I represent is it's now legal, and it's akin to liquor sales, which is heavily regulated. This is even more regulated. The retail comment I made earlier is it's going into existing retail space. That's what we're considering, you know? I mean, I'd like to get the parking calculations set. I think what happened is, under the new ordinance, the definition does mention square footage generally, whereas the old ordinance might have excluded it. This ordinance is new as of August new. It's new.
Yes.
So, but once again, that's why I wanted to clarify for the board's benefit. It's just the restaurant use that we're talking about. This retail expectation of spaces is what it is. It's a Route 22 business, like any number of Route 22 businesses, where if you're going to pull in to go to the liquor store, to go to PetSmart, to go to buy weed, if there's no spots, you're probably going to just drive on, you know, and you're not going to stop. You know, it's a buyer beware, and it's in the applicant's interest, the landlord's interest, the owner's interest to make sure the site is suitable for the public. And I've noted the record with those follow-ups, both as to parking and signage.
And the one thing that was mentioned is, with respect to someone coming there, you know, impaired, nothing would turn off your other customers to have someone come in there impaired, all right?
But you can refuse to serve.
100%.
Yeah,
No, we could. We
that's
will.
what I
We will refuse them.
I think that's an important point, and I like the liquor store analogy. I think it was helpful for me.
It's a very
Hopefully
good.
it's helpful for the board.
And guys, just to let you know, the customer clientele that we have, all right, are we can't, I'm not gonna lie to you, all right? We can't compete with the local drug dealer, all right? Anybody, all right, who has a drug dealer, believe me, is gonna go to their drug dealer, okay? What we do offer is obviously, our stuff has been tested. Our stuff is not leased. Our strains are done to a certain point. You know what you're buying, okay? So the clientele. You're absolutely exactly right. You're paying for it. And that's why we can't compete. I'm not gonna lie, we can't compete. The people who have the local drug dealers are gonna continue to go to the local drug dealers, all right? The only thing, like I said, we offer is, you know, quality we have.
I had a lot of my questions answered already, in terms of the hours and the maximum amount of people in the lobby and whether or not, any of this can be done in the parking lot. But I just have one question about, because you did talk about how much security it's gonna be, and you talked about cameras, and you talked about, the police, but so why the necessity for the armed police officers in the property? I get it, I understand the, you know, why kind of in my head, but I would like some kind of interpretation.
No
of
problem.
why you would think that you would need that level of security.
No problem at all. What happens, guys, is this is the only cannabis use that you know it's there, all right? As for all other cannabis uses, let's say you're growing it, let's say you're manufacturing, your distribution, they're in buildings that specifically have no signage. Unless you know that's a cannabis use, you don't know it's a cannabis use. The retail is the one use, all right, that people know it's there, because that's what you want them to know it's there, because you want them to frequent your establishment. And the thing is, they know that right now, all right, there's only a few other avenues, all right, to purchase cannabis other than cash, all right? So they figure if in fact they're gonna hit something, they're gonna hit a retail establishment. Guys, please don't hold me to it, because I haven't vetted it 100%, but what I've been told, all right, and it's through people in the industry, that ever since medicinally that we've opened up in New Jersey, all right, there has not been one robbery of a retail establishment in the state, all right? But to the point which, I'm just giving you a little background to everything, but to the point which you're saying is, if in fact someone's going to come in there, all right, in order to try to rob us, all right, in my opinion, they're going to be armed. They're going to be armed, and that's the only reason I'm asking. That's why we usually always have armed security.
All right, and then I also wanted to know, because you did say that you can go online, because I heard you at first say when you come into the lobby, you can order from them, you can
Yes.
go on a computer and you can order. So you also will have some kind of website, because you talked about that, where if you're not there, so are you gonna also offer delivery service?
Let's put it this way. Delivery there's 6 licenses in the state of New Jersey you can get for cannabis. And one of those licenses, in fact, is Class 6, is a delivery license. You're a delivery service, and whether the town opted in or did not opt in for cannabis, delivery is legal statewide, all right? And a lot of facilities will use those delivery services to deliver our product, all right? But under the regulations, we are allowed to have our own delivery, all right? If in fact it's an employee of ours, it's a registered vehicle of ours, all right? And you'll see with respect to a delivery vehicle, it has to be equipped with a GPS safe. The safe is not allowed to be opened, it cannot be opened unless you are at the address that was plugged in when you left. All right? So the question is whether we will offer delivery. I don't know whether we will do it ourselves. It may not be cost effective, but we can hire someone who holds a Class 6 license who will then deliver our product. All right? And they specifically will have their vehicles all equipped with the necessary security that, in fact, they have. All right? But what's good for Union is, let's say someone orders from Newark. Let's say someone orders from Hillside. The delivery service comes and picks it up, and it goes and it's delivered to a town that did not opt in, all right? You guys collected 2% tax, all right? You still collected the tax is given where the product originates, exactly, all right? So that's why I can't understand why every town hasn't opted in, because you illegally can come to your town and be delivered, and you're not getting a dime. You're not getting a dime from it, all right? So, and that 2% based upon the numbers, all right, it's a substantial amount for the town, all right? And not only do we not need any other services from the town, we try to work together with your local police department, all right? And guys, every other town that we've been in, the police department has said yes, all right? We have an outside service, but it would be police officers on site.
When you say these other towns, is that the Bud Shop LLC has these other locations?
No, what happens, that's another good question. All of the companies of which I am consultant for, in New Jersey, you are not allowed to have common ownership amongst, all right, different cannabis establishments. So, any of the places I work with, anyone in excess of 4.9% can only be in one establishment. So that's why, no, the Bud Shop can only be here, all right? It may be, let's put it this way, it may be, the legal name, it may be the Bud Shop LLC, which it is, all right? It may be Greenleaf of Union, maybe our DBA. We may use Greenleaf of Saddlebrook as our other DBA, all right? For companies that, in fact, work together, but they cannot have the common ownership.
Are they using prototypical type of establishments? You know, is someone further along now that's already has the model in place? Or?
It's another good question. The only retail places that are open right now in the state of New Jersey are the medicinal companies that were here before it became legal recreational. They were grandfathered in. They had one obligation to show that they can meet their medicinal need, and then they were allowed to open up recreational. There is no independent retail establishment in this state as of right now, all right? Quite honestly, because the site work here and this build-out is nothing complex, this may be the first independent retail establishment in the state. So.
Thank you for your insight.
I gotta be honest with you, this excites me.
Ms.
I'm not
Alexander?
gonna lie to you, this excites, I love talking about cannabis, all right?
Oh, because this is
All right.
all new to us. I mean,
My last,
this is
All right.
all new to us, so it's very.
My last
you've been
question,
very informative.
Yes.
Thank you.
we had a company, RTPS, the Right to Protect the Rifle Company, and when he came, we asked him, had anybody got hurt with the rifle, and he did tell us that someone had hurt themselves with the rifles. Now, with this, in your experience in all of the bud shops that you are, has there been a lot of, like, people breaking in, taking anything, hurting anybody?
No,
Do you
no,
have
they
any
haven't
experience
been.
of anything like that?
No, it's, surprisingly, the
No.
answer is no, all right, in
I
New
mean,
Jersey,
I'm
in New
happy-
Jersey. There's other states, I deal with facilities in other states, there's
Right.
been some other states.
Yeah.
All right?
What's the difference between what's gonna be on 22 and the one that's in Maplewood? Because the one in Maplewood, I really see security.
I don't know the one in Maplewood, I gotta be honest with you. Is it a retail establishment?
Yes.
Is it is it TH?
I did see security.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know an existing operating retail establishment that does not have security right now. Yeah,
You're also engineering security in the building with the multiple phases
Yes.
of locked security systems where you can see the safe is all the way in the back. You have to get through multiple entrances. So it's really a difficult place to try to rob.
Is it?
It really is not an easy. It's engineered that way from a design perspective, and then you're adding the armed security almost as a fail-safe measure, I think.
As for everything else other than the live
Thank you.
security, all right, all of the cameras and everything else, that's required. That's required by the CRC. Just to let you know, once we're done building the place and we get a CO from the town, we then have to apply to the state. We can't open up as of yet. The state then has to come in and they do their inspection of our facility, and they give us a certificate of operation. Then we're allowed to open up, all right? And as council said earlier, this is, the most similar business is liquor, but this is regulated beyond liquor. All right? You know, when you leave here, all right, you leave your product in what looks like, when you leave your doctor's office, a prescription bottle, all right? There's a prescription on it, it tells you the strength of it, it tells you how much, it tells you when it was purchased, and you get a code as to that purchase. They, under the CRC, they should be doing it.
I don't know, maybe it's under the medical.
Medical's different. No, medical's not really different. Medical's very similar, too.
I've seen them in bags.
But the bags, but you should have a white sticker on there, on the bag, all right? It doesn't have to come in a pill vial, it can come in a bag, but there's absolutely, under the regulations, have to have a sticker on there that has a barcode on it, because every transaction is barcoded.
Now, what about the amount that you could purchase, additional, different amount?
Yes, yes. But, yes, medicinal is much more lenient than recreational, all right? Because, guys, hey, listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see, medicinal, as of right now, there's a much lower tax on it, okay? I don't see why medicinal in 2 years is even gonna be here, all right? When some of my colleagues think otherwise, why go through the hassle of getting a medicinal card, all right? Why going through the hassle of renewing it when you don't have to anymore? You just walk in,
I was thinking the same thing.
all right?
But,
There is a difference,
Quantity-wise, you're allowed to get more.
quantity-wise and cost.
Cost, because the tax, you save on the tax, that I do know. Cost-wise,
Can you use your insurance card for medicinal?
I don't know yet. I gotta be honest with you. I don't know yet. Guys, what happens, an average, right now, an average in New Jersey,
Medical insurance pay for anything?
not that I know of.
No?
No, I don't think they've become,
If they don't, then I'm saying they're medical,
why would it be here,
they're
right?
going out of business.
I mean, if your doctor's
Yeah.
prescribing it.
Yeah. We do, am I correct, with the medicinal purchase, I believe the average right now is somewhere 160, and I believe the retail is 115. So people, when they come in medicinally, do spend more money medicinally, all right? And they're getting the product cheaper. Exactly right. And I gotta be honest with you, I got involved heavily into the cannabis industry about 4 years ago. They will, exactly. But you are still getting the same product, all right? Some people, you think you're getting stronger medicinal, all right?
You do have, like you said earlier, with regard to the recreational, they get kind of first dibs on the supply though, correct?
No, medicinal has first dib.
Medicinal.
Medicinal
So
has,
one of the benefits of
yes.
the medicinal is that you kind of get first dibs on the supply.
no, yes. So, in a nutshell, that's pretty much everything. All right.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any other board members with questions? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to question the testimony Mr. Catania has given? I have to ask that question. Hearing none, Mr. Lagana, would you like to call your next witness?
Mr. Chairman, I have no further witnesses. I can make a very...
Would you like to sum up?
Yes, a very, very brief summary.
Thank you.
My opening pretty much stated everything that I wanted to say, in that this is a permitted use as a conditional use. We provided testimony of where we're in violation of the conditional use with regard to the distance from the residential zone and the use. We have a lot of pre-existing nonconformities that were previously approved by this board, and then we have that sign variance, which we will work with not only the engineer, but also the landlord to try to rectify that in some fashion. And Mr. McNeil's comment about structural, we won't do anything without approval by the board engineer and receive the appropriate permits for that. But we will try to make that sign a little bit better than it is, at least it was presented. With that, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your time and your questions, and if I have any questions of myself, I'll be happy to answer them, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lagana. Are there any other board members that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Hearing none, I believe we can conference this. Mr. DiGiovanni, would you like to begin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a pretty cut and dry application. It's heavily regulated, and we were here for a couple of existing non-conforming variances, and one had to do with the closeness of a residence, and I'm not concerned about it because of it's Route 22. That's really the difference between the closest resident and the facility. If someone wants to dare run across 22, they don't deserve to get the cannabis. In any event, they should deserve to get the cannabis, right? In any event, I'm going to vote for this application. We want to take care of that sign thing, which we agreed to. And we learned a lot. I think we had a lot of good discussion, and we learned a lot about the industry, which was good. I will vote yes.
Mr. Benavenga.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Based on the testimony, I think, Mr. Catania, you gave a pretty detailed and accurate testimony about the operation. To my colleagues, based on the security issue, I think it's a positive. It's more of a deterrent, and, with the business, I think you need armed security. Don't look too much into it, but I think it's definitely a necessity. And like Mr. DiGiovanni said, based on where the operation is on 22, the residents being on the opposite side, I don't see any negative effect. I'm also going to vote yes tonight.
Mr. McNeil.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with my colleagues that the application is nice and clean. The expert witnesses proved themselves proficient in the questions, and the fact that the township will benefit as being a trendsetter in the state of New Jersey. I will vote yes on this application.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleagues as well. I think it's a good, clean application. I don't see anything negative, everything's positive, and I don't think it'll affect any residents whatsoever being where it's located. And I'm going to vote yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes, I also agree with my colleagues that it was a clean application, and I also think that the testimony that he gave regarding the industry and so much information, how they will operate the industry and how they'll keep people in and out, and, some of the nuances of, just running the operation with weed. So I could appreciate learning some of the information that you provided. That was good testimony. I appreciate that. So I will also be voting yes on this application.
Ms. Alexander.
Hi, yes, I agree. I think, Patrick, you did a very good job explaining the parking. But Frank, you did an excellent job in giving us the new information that we needed. It is new to our town, and I agree with my colleagues. It was a good, clean application, and I'll be voting yes along with the rest of my colleagues.
As for myself, based on the plans and testimony given this evening, I feel the applicant has more than proved and justified both the positive and the negative criteria for this application. To propose, the use will have no negative impact on any of the neighbors or neighboring properties. Mr. Catania and Mr. McClellan both did an excellent job with their testimony, so I will vote yes for this application.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board grant the variances applicable to this application, and the council is directed to prepare a resolution consistent with the board's decision.
Roll call.
Mr. DiGiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Bentavegana.
Yes.
Mr. Wiley.
Yes.
Ms. Alexander.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. McNeil.
Yes.
And Mr. Champy.
Yes.
Thank you, board members. I would like to wish you all a very happy and healthy holiday. For the record, I would like to thank Mr. Manguzo, Tiffany, and Mr. Panzella, consummate professionals. It was a pleasure working with them. You have a very, very good staff, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future.
Nice to have met you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that
The
comment.
resolution will be on for January 18th. We haven't done our reorg yet, but we'll put it on for the January 18th agenda.
Mr. Chairman, there being no further business come before us this evening, I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.